Hey everyone, it's Life and Vibe, otherwise known as Ray. And I wanted to catch up quickly with Mr. Raymond Kreps and some of his business activities or things that he seems to be involved with. And I do want to first thank the channel Granny's Gotta Go for kind of tipping this information off. And it had me go into a little bit of a deep dive exploration and open up quite the can of worms, at least in my opinion. And so before we get started, let me just make sure that I put out my fair use statement that everything that I'm going to show are verified public records. These are open public records. There is no personal information that has not been disclosed because these are non-profit organizations. And so they do not have the same level of privacy in their records as, say, you and I, because they are operating as a nonprofit and obviously having the benefits of doing so. And so today we're actually going to take a look at the connection between Raymond George Kreps, otherwise known as the Offended Outcast, and a charity under the name of Czechovette run by Michael Carmichael. Now, that name may sound familiar to anybody out here because it has been the name that Jeb from Jeb's Journey has been using to say that Ray has been with a gentleman by the name of Michael Carmichael and about his fears in some ways, but he's been changing his story around the gentleman Michael Carmichael. So who is Ray Kreps if you're new to this channel? So let me make me small. Ray Kreps is somebody who's an SO, offender, and a 3-time felon from the state of, actually the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Let me correct myself. And he had a channel called the Offended Outcast. And he was also found to have some additional felonies dating back from 1994. There's been a number of exposés on him, including my own, that exposed his 1994 strong arm felony first, I believe. And then obviously a case in Wisconsin, which is going to be very, very important to this case. So Mr. Kreps has so far privated his Offender Outcast channel. It's not been completely deleted. It's just on private at this time. And he has somewhat disappeared from the internet at this time. But it was discovered that he does have this deep connection with the charity Czechovette and this individual, Michael Carmichael. So who is Michael Carmichael? For those of you who are not familiar with him, and everything again I show is going to be under fair use. So there was a big news article, and I believe also on their broadcast network, Fox News, a story around the charity that was set up in 2021 called Czechovette, which is a nonprofit based in Murray, Kentucky. We're going to look at that in a second more. And this was set up by a retired Green Beret chief, and it is for those struggling with thoughts to unalive themselves, which, having studied in mental health and psychiatric mental health, I certainly am very strongly supportive of any type of organization that's going to give outreach and support to these folks with these types of desires and maybe struggling with PTSD. I think this is a very important issue. So for the charity and the sort of work behind it, absolutely support this. Okay, so I just want to make that very, very clear. So, but he talks about identity politics, but, so if you're going to have a charity doing that, probably putting your politics into your charity, especially if they don't really align with what the charity is doing, I think that could be alienating for some of your vets. So maybe not a good plan on this charity, especially if somebody's having, family who are not accepting their choice of romantic partners, their choice of gender identity, any of these things that obviously this guy would hate and most of these people would hate me talking about. But that's okay. I like talking about them. Okay, so Michael R. Carmichael was a retired Army Special Forces chief, warrant officer who served in the Special Forces for 22 years and deployed on 11 combat missions, and raising awareness that veteran suicides are likely Sorry, I should use, but I am a registered nurse. So I know people hate when I say that. Veterans who take the desire to unalive themselves, I have to use YouTube language, guys, are likely higher than the official statistics, and that Americans need to help them. And I strongly agree. I live in an area with a strong military background, and we have a lot of veterans in this area. I know what's right and what's wrong from the eyes of the establishment. Carmichael told Fox, frustrating. He got upset over gay pride. Okay, so this is who Michael Carmichael is. And obviously, he got a lot of, exposure in Fox News, especially when he had this particular rhetoric. This is probably very popular, anti-woke talk that Fox viewers probably rally around, in my opinion. And you're going to see with his tax filings that obviously this exposure had meant that there was a massive increase in the amount of money this charity took in, more than double what it had in previous years. And so this exposure was massive for Michael Carmichael and the Czechovette organization. And as you can see here, you can see they have their display stands out. There's probably Mr. Carmichael there, maybe not. Looks like him. And obviously he's got the wrapped van and the booth and, all of these different things. And these can, cost a fair amount of money to create. The interesting thing is all of these items are never really listed as you would expect in a Schedule C tax filing. And having my own business with YouTube and filing a Schedule C for my 1099 miscellaneous, I know that I break everything down, whether it's a promotion, if it's to do with the electronics or internet that I use, or the office space. So anybody familiar with the Schedule C will know that you break things down in order to file everything into that business Schedule C. And obviously nonprofits have a way that they have to file theirs. And so you can see all of this here. Okay. So he obviously went out. He does do his work. It's a legitimate charity. There's nothing that says that Czechovette is not a charity that goes out. He's got the truck and it's wrapped. And obviously he's advertising his organization, and then so on and so forth. So Czechovette, absolutely a legitimate organization, and I never want to take from that. Now, the only difficulty that we can see with Czechovette is that this is the organization here. So let's take a look at this. So they are a nonprofit. This is a site called ProPublica. So any information that I am showing, even if it feels like it's an address or something, these are all connected with a public nonprofit charity. And these are all their records that are publicly anybody could go to this particular site, give a donation, and I'll make sure to list and link their site down below so that you can find it. So here, it's a nonprofit. It is designated as a 501c3, and it's an organizations for any of the following purposes, which are religious, educational, charitable, scientific, literary, testing for public safety, fostering national or international amateur sports competition, prevention of cruelty, to animals. Okay, don't want all the stuff. So it goes under the category here of mental health crisis intervention, and everything that's donated to this charity is obviously a tax deduction. So you can see here in quite the disparity in the revenue and how their expenses are handled, which is not to say that charities to hold on to the money, but you'll see how this kind of pans out, what their assets are, which considering some of the amounts of money that they've actually brought in, they have very considerably a small amount of assets for this charity. Like, there's no seemingly trust funds set up to do anything to maintain the charity for any type of longevity. I am going to preface, I am not a forensic accountant or auditor. These are only things that I am noting and sort of observing on their tax records that I myself found inconsistent with how you would properly file for any type of business, whether it was a nonprofit charity, which has really very, very clear, because you certainly don't want anybody misappropriating the monies that have been donated and are tax-free for a charity. And I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying the way that they're writing their IRS and filing, it's very it's not very clear how the money's being spent. Okay, so here's the expensive, and then they just have this $45,000 in total assets, which I guess includes the truck and all that. The wrapped truck, which looks more than a $45,000 truck, but maybe it's had depreciation, which I think it has, and obviously the promotional assets. So I'm guessing just whatever they use for their booth and the vehicle, and maybe some computers to run the business, are the only assets that this charity actually has. Okay, so we can actually see all of their individual tax filings, and we're actually going to look at each and every one of them, because they've obviously been back since they started. So we can go all the way back to their first 21, which was filed in this fiscal of 2022, because I guess wherever they set up in 21, their initial filing came in June of 22. And so we can get into all of these filings. Now, there's something that is interesting and on this Form 990. So here's the organization, Michael Carmichael. Czechovette will prevent, and like I said, I know you're seeing the address, but that's the address of the organization. And so that would be a publicly known address. You would be able to type into Google Czechovette, and it would say where it is located. So I'm not giving this man's home address. This is a public charity nonprofit tax filing. And that's where the CEO of this organization, says that he is located to it. So I just want that to be very clear, because he shares it with Raymond Kreps. There's a big connection here. Okay, Czechovette will prevent veteran suicide by raising public awareness and calling upon American citizens to meaningfully and routinely engage veterans, which I think is a great mission. Okay, I'm going to make me a little bit smaller, actually, so this can get a little bit more of the screen. Okay. Oh, no, actually, no, because then I cover up part of the language, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so, again, these are public records. Okay, so if we go through the Form 990, his return of organization exempt from income tax 2021, open to public inspection. Just want to make sure that you see this very clearly here. Everybody and YouTube, it is open to public inspection. So they put in their N numbers. Everybody can find this. They got in this $151,161 or $167. Good Lord, right? And then here you can see they had no prior year. So this is the first time they had ever filed. And then they spent pretty much everything with just a remaining $1,728. So what was $149? It was $150,000 spent on. Well, we can find out here. Not much. They just say they got this in. None of this is filled out about any of their programs, expenses, nothing. Just 145, 54, nothing filled out here. This is a red flag for any auditor, because as a nonprofit, you really need to be including all of this in here. And then they'll say that they are obviously a 501c3. And then we'll keep going down. And then they'll say just everything's a no, everything's a no, everything's a no. Now, I do want to find this person for you, because it seems to have been buried in here. I want you to see this. Okay, so they say records, and then records. Okay, so here, right here, Section C, disclosures. Okay, this was the 2021. Raymond Kreps, 670 Russell Drive, Murray, Kentucky. Raymond Kreps, the same Raymond Kreps that we know has had this gentleman on his Offended Outcast show, Michael Carmichael, is the person who possesses the organization's books and records. So pretty much the accountant and keeping an eye, and everything in this thing is blank. And so Raymond also has a history of forgery, and we'll show that Wisconsin case in just a minute. Let me speed this through because I know I can get really slow and people irritate. Okay. So I just wanted you to show that everything around here, he says Michael Carmichael, the president, sorry, not CEO, works 40 hours a week and he doesn't get a single dime of money. And these people just show up for an hour to the board meetings. Give an hour to this organization. So they're just like almost like placeholders. These folks, Christopher Miller, Dave Wilson, Jennifer Van Weiss, and Faye Grund. And to this jump, but they don't take any money. And to be a president and dedicate 40 hours even to a charitable organization and take no money and have spent $150,000 just on outreach programs that's not outlined is very strange. Very strange. There's nothing. So that's the form. If we go, say, to his Schedule A, just the organization, there's nothing that they really say anything in here. If we go to the M, just non-cash contributions. Just here we got some real estate came in. Interesting. Was that the property on Murray, Kentucky? And then some archaeological artifacts. What are they? Very interesting. And then here on their supplemental, just nothing. I mean, it's very strange to have a charity this empty and how it's used its charitable monies. Okay, so that was 2021. Okay, we can go back to Czechovette, okay, and we can get into all of these filings. Let's look at their most recent 2025 filing, where they brought in $382,000, 946 cents. So they've been bringing in, and you'll find if you take a look at all of their filings, you'll discover that they have the same sort of empty information. So it's like, where is all this money going? And, if you are handling that much of a non-tax charitable money, and this is the money that this is your tax filing for 990 for 2024, that's, open. There we are. There's that address, the Russell Drive, same address that we have Mr. Kreps connected to. And we know that they know each other. We've seen that on Raymond's channel. So here is very interesting. In this particular filing year, which I believe was there, came in, they submitted it August the 7th, 2025. And it is the filings that were from the 1st of July, 2024 and ending in June 30th, 2025. So that is that tax year because they started kind of from that time in June. So they always start a little bit differently. They don't follow like we do as regular folks or businesses. I guess they start. So they're a 5013C or C3, sorry, corporation. And then again, we've got about the calendar volunteers. They say they have 30 volunteers. Okay. This is how much they brought in the previous year in grants. And then this year, contributions and grants. Okay. So probably most of this is contribution, not grants, because when you're getting government grants, you're really going to have to detail how that money is being spent. And see, that's a huge jump from $123,286 to this particular year due to the Fox News exposure, $360. Then they also had some other revenue come in. That was $7,500, giving a grand total of $382,000, $382,946. My goodness. I need to read my numbers this morning. And then they had expenses, just other expenses. So look at this: grants, benefits paid to or from members, salaries or other compensations, professional fundraising fees, like anything that they did, like going out like on a promotional thing, or something. Nothing, just blank zero. This is very weird. And then just everything else lumped into other expenses of $375,883. And they came out of the year. This year they were down money. This year they actually made some revenue of $7,063. Now, not to say that charities' goals are to make revenues, but there are certain amounts of money that you would put away for trusts or monies so that you could issue grants or support or do other types of work with the money in the charity. I've worked at or volunteered at charities, and I have seen, all the different layers to it. And so understand that this is not usual. This is very, very unusual how this has been filed. So again, we see Michael Carmichael. This is supposedly under perjury. So I hope this is all correct, that it just went to other expenses. Nothing went to any of the other things. This is the name of the firm who's doing the filing for this, is CYB Accounting over in Paducah. So they're the ones who prepared all of this for them and just happily lumped all of this over. Interesting. Because it just doesn't seem like this would be usual. Expenses and then revenue, and then there's just nothing in here. It's just blank. It's just unusual. And then they say yes, everything's a no. Then yes, just some equipment, land, buildings, and equipment. Yes. Okay, that's probably the truck. And then everything here. Yes. Again, if you look at the records holder, let me show you this. I'm going to click through some pages real fast. There we go. Name and state, address, and telephone number of the person who possesses the organization's books and records. Again, we got our good friend Raymond Kreps sharing the address with our friend in Kentucky. If we go through this thing, it's just like this, just 40 hours work, same people on the board, only putting an hour a week. Nobody gets a salary. Though he does 40 hours a week. He doesn't draw any type of salary from this organization. Yet they're spending, when they go out, they've managed to spend almost $400,000. That's what their accountant said. I mean, that's what they signed off on. There's nothing here. Look, there's no functional expenses of any type. Look, nothing. Oh, here. It's got some legal. We got a little bit of advertising and promotion. The occupancy is $248,000. That's interesting. Okay, depreciation. Okay, so we got a little bit more of a breakdown here. Okay, this is a little better. Okay, depreciation, insurance. Okay, tokens and gifts, all other expenses, total expenses, just volunteer time. Okay, but obviously not Michael Carmichael's because he doesn't get paid. Depreciation, is that on the truck? What's this occupancy? Is that the building? I know they have that property they've had for a while. That's interesting. I wonder, it's occupancy. I would have thought that's their building that they occupy. I fill these out too, grants, management, legal. Okay. Advertising and promotion, office expenses. I wonder if the other one broke it down. I didn't see the other one is broken down. So maybe the first year didn't have as much going on. This one's got the depreciation, some of the insurances they're paying, gifts, volunteer time, cleaning, all other expenses, $33,000. Wow. It's pretty high. What's that? Total expenses, program services expenses. Okay, interesting. And then cash, non-interest bearing. Okay, so they've got some type of, okay, they put some cash aside. Oh, that's good to see. Okay, and their assets are here. Okay, so this we've got total revenue, total expenses. Gosh, they spent a lot out. Whatever that occupancy was at $288,000. I guess, is that the purchase of the building? What occupancy did they purchase? Because that's a big occupancy for a charity, isn't it? I'm just curious. Anybody understands? But that's what I would understand occupancy to be, is a building, 248. I wonder if it showed up on the other years. I don't think so, because they didn't even bring in that much before. But they've always had that address. Did they move it, the address, into being owned by the charity that was a residential property? I'm just curious. I don't know. If somebody understands accounting more than I do. But I do find it interesting that he's got Raymond Kreps involved in this organization. Oh, here we go. We've got better breakdown here. Okay, because we didn't see this. Remember the year before and we took a look? We didn't see all this stuff before, the Schedule A's and D's and stuff. Okay, this is good because we didn't see this before. Let's look at their A. Okay. Because last time it was just blank. Okay. Interesting. Okay, I could look at this forever, guys. Okay, so just to show that obviously he is connected to, yeah, I've looked at that for way too long, Raymond George Kreps. And obviously, let's just share this case over here. Because I think something that caused, for me, a red flag with a charity, having somebody have access to their books, is the fact that Raymond George Kreps is connected to this Czechovette charity. But in 1999, he was found for a felony forgery and uttering in Wisconsin Circuit Court. And even though Ray is trying to scrub his actual identity away, it is interesting to know that he is also managing the records of this Czechovette charity. So here we have his Ashland court case, state of Wisconsin versus Raymond G. Kreps. It was filed in February of 1999. Here's old Ray's date of birth. He was over in his Michigan family home area then. It was a criminal case. Here we go. He had actually 8 counts, one of which he pled guilty. All the others were dismissed. I know that there has been talk about the fact that about how this took place as the case. I know that In Cuffs has talked about this a little bit more. Interesting that there was something that was paid in 2026. But yeah, this somebody with a felony C pled guilty in 1999 to forgery and uttering, and yet this individual is being attached to the records of a charity called Czechovette. So it just seems like a very interesting connection. I want to thank Granny's Gotta Go for pointing that out. I did want to show that Ray is also attempting to take his actual profile off the public sites. So here, if you followed me recently, you would have seen that I showed Raymond George Kreps in Kentucky. When I clicked on this initially, it would take me right to a page where I had done the research. Gone. As I'll show you now, that will continue. If I click on his father, who is deceased, so I'll show you that. If I click on his dad, obviously he's not recording. Right here, you can see that his record came in straight away because I'd looked at the record before. And so Raymond George Kreps is trying to clean his internet presence and all of his crimes away. But luckily, a lot of us have already captured a lot of his history, his court case numbers. Like I said, we do definitely still have the case number for his Wisconsin forgery case. I certainly think it's interesting that a charity that took in so much money in the year of in the years before, that they were being able to get such a big donation, and which is great. But I am curious about that $288 occupancy that the charity invested. I'm not sure. And I'm also curious as to why they would have Raymond Kreps, somebody with a felony for forgery, as the holder of their records. I don't know if they did not know what his history was, But maybe Mr. Carmichael needs to take a better look. All right, guys, it was too long. Make sure to leave me money symbols down below if you did get this far and you found it interesting. Make sure to give us a like, give us a hype. Maybe you understand the accounting. I'm glad I kind of found some of the breakdown on that and was able to share. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.